Hello everybody, I'll be running through Topaz DeNoise AI today and I'll be starting right after the break. Alright, hello everybody. So today I wanted to do a quick run through of Topaz DeNoise AI. Now there's been quite a few versions of Topaz DeNoise AI. The version I'm specifically looking at is v2.2.7, which has had a few new features add into it. So it is worth checking to see whether your version matches this. If not, stay tuned and we'll have a look at some of the features. So we'll start off with the interface. The interface is fairly similar to all the Topaz stuff. There's the central image view section. There's all the file stuff, a range of icons, and then the individual settings would show up here. So you could either press open or drag and drop an image into here. I'm going to start by pressing open, and I'm going to open this Milky Way photo. So in terms of the various interface settings, I'll start off by looking at zoom, and I'm going to go zoom to fit, and that will just change the settings, so the zoom, so that it does fit the screen. Now you can press that and you can change it to any of the zooms, or this drag will also do the same thing. So in terms of a couple of the other settings that are worth bearing in mind, at the moment I've got the preview line put in there, and so you do that from the view section. And what this will do is it'll show you on the left hand side the before, and on the right hand side the after of the photo that you're looking at. So you press view, so single view will just show you the single. Split view will show you the split where the left is of the line is the before and the right hand side of the line is after, and side by side will show two separate images. So what you'll notice is when I moved some of the stuff around, it started to process. So it did that because I've got auto update preview turned on. Now I would suggest if you're going to make a lot of changes, then it's probably worth turning that off so that you can make your various changes and then update the preview when you want to, rather than having it do it again and again each time. Couple of other things with this interface. You've got the mode here. So there's DeNoise AI and AI Clear. And if you hold over, it will give you a little bit of information. And so generally AI DeNoise is slower and will preserve more detail, but may not always work for certain types and sizes of noise. AI Clear will work for more types of images, but may preserve less fine detail. For this sort of photo, DeNoise AI is going to tend to be better than other photos. So what I'm going to do over here is, at the moment, you'll see auto is off. So what that means is I have to pick all of the settings that I want. I'm going to turn it on, and it's going to analyze the photo, which it's done, and it seems to suggest that 15 for remove noise and 27 for sharpen noise is a good in between. Now you'll see there is a fair bit of noise around here, and because it is a low light photo, I'm going to turn on low light mode. And what that will do is it'll try and get a little bit more out of the photo. There's also some post-processing options here. I'm not going to worry about those at the moment though. So if I'm happy with all of these, if I had auto update preview turned on, it would have updated it for me, but I don't, so I'm going to press update. What this is going to do is it's going to try and generate a preview for me. And as it runs through, it's using the graphics card or some of the CPU, depending on the computer specs, to try and improve the image, and it's actually using AI to do that. So what you'll notice, I'm going to zoom in a little bit, so we're going to go to say 100%, and we'll bring down towards the rock, because I think that's a good example of where we can see a bit of noise. Now, I'm going to turn on auto update preview, because what it's going to do as I move, it's going to re-update the preview. And on the left hand side, you can see that it's done a lot. So this is the noise before, and the right hand side is the noise after. So if I move this across, you can see it has taken a lot of noise out of that photo. So, you know, I think that's pretty impressive. There wasn't a whole lot of detail to start off with in those rocks, given how dark it was, but it has kept a fair bit of detail. Now, one thing that you should be aware of, and I'll zoom to fit to show you this, is when you look at noise, you'll notice that it's actually having an impact on some of the stars. So if you look really carefully, it is actually removing some of the stars, because it can be hard to work out which part of the star is noise and which part is not. So that leads into a really helpful tool, which is the mask tool. So what the mask tool lets us do is it lets us actually tell it where we want to have the denoise applied and where we don't want it applied. So what I'm doing to resize this is I'm using the left and right bracket. So I've got it to the point where I'm happy, and now I'm just going to paint in this section down here. So what I'm doing is I'm actually telling it, I only want you to apply noise reduction in this section that I've painted. So that will mean that it will leave the sky. That will only do it in that bottom section. Now I can turn on edge aware if I want. And I do have the overlay set here. So I could turn that on or off so that I can see, you know, where my overlay is. And if I'm happy with that, I've turned on edge aware just so I can try and pick up some of the edges. I would then press apply mask. And what you'll notice is now it's actually just doing it on the area that I've masked in. So for things like night photos where you want the sky to be left alone, but you want the land to be denoised selectively, masking is a really, really useful tool. And I definitely recommend that you have a look at it and see if you think it's going to work for you, because, you know, there's probably a reasonable likelihood that it will. So if I'm happy with this photo, I mean, I can always try and be a bit more aggressive in removing noise. But like I said, it's a bit of a balancing act. So, you know, you don't want to go too far. I can guarantee if you go all the way to the right, it will mean that there's too much noise removal. And if you go all the way to the left, it'll mean that there's none. So, you know, you got to work out what works best for your photo. But let's say I'm happy with where this is at the moment. I've got it on auto. I've got auto update preview turned on, which is why this has started to show up. If I'm happy with everything, then there's a save image button, which is actually right behind me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my camera off for a sec, and you'll then press this save image button. And so what that save image button does is it'll bring up a dialog box where you can say the file type you want to save it as, any of the settings, the file name that you want, where you want to save it to, and then you just click save. So I'm not going to do that in this case, but I am going to open another photo. So first I'm going to go close all images. I won't worry saving. Before I do that, I'm just going to go into preferences and just show you a few of the options. So if you want to share anonymous data collection, that's there. There's the default save as suffix and prefix. So this will append that to the end of it. Append processing mode as suffix. will mean it'll be denoise, and then it'll give you more information. If you go into advanced preferences, you do have a little bit more ability to adjust some of the settings. So we have enable discrete GPU. So if you have a supported graphics card, you can pick yes. And then allowed graphics memory consumption. And within this, you can say, okay, how much of the graphics card is this allowed to use? So for me, I'm going to say high. It can use the discrete GPU. That's fine. And then close. So the first photo that I showed you was one that was a night landscape. But now let's have a look at a person and see just how it works in this scenario. So here I have a fire twirler. And so this photo was taken at a night festival. And obviously there is a lot of noise. At the moment, I've got auto update preview set on. I've got it on DeNoise AI, and I'm going to turn auto on. And so what this is saying is it's saying that it doesn't think you should use too much remove noise, but it does need a bit of sharpening. Now, again, because this is a low light photo and it was used in a high ISO, I'm going to turn this on. And what this will do is it'll reprocess the photo and it'll start to see if it can pull a little bit more detail out. So if you look at the before and the after, you can see it is pretty significant. The left is before, the right is after. So it has kept a lot of the detail in the face, but it has actually gotten rid of a lot of the noise. So, you know, I'm pretty happy with that. I think it's done a reasonable job at it. If you wanted to tweak things though, you might try and recover additional detail. And so you can adjust that. And that will try and do some post-processing. Bring out a little bit of sharpening. And if you are happy, you then click on Save Image and do all of your save. So I'll go to one last photo, which again is a landscape. I don't tend to take a lot of people photos. I find landscapes much easier, to be honest. And this one is a very, very noisy photo. So this is a photo from an art installation called The Field of Lights. And unfortunately, in this scenario, you weren't allowed to have tripods or monopods, so everything was handheld, which of course then meant that the noise, you know, was going to be fairly significant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the auto detect mode. Once I've got that on, I'm also going to turn on the low light mode. I'm going to leave just those two settings. And then if you look at the before and the after, especially around some of the dirt near that bottom right light, you can see it has taken a lot of noise out. Now, like I said, it's always a trade-in, a bit of a balancing act, sorry, because you can obviously lose some detail if you go too far. So it is a case of trying to balance out what is an okay amount of noise to remove versus to leave there for sharpening. So you're really going to have to see what works for you, and different things will work for different people and even different photos. Now I'm happy because there's not a lot, it was a full moon, there's not a lot of stars in the sky. I don't particularly mind that it's denoise in the sky, but if I did want to be more selective, I'd go to mask down the bottom. I'd click on add, and I would then paint in where I want that mask to be applied. So you just paint that in. And then I would let go. And so I've got edge aware on. And what you'll see over on this side here is that you'll see where the white is, that's where the mask and subsequently the denoise would be applied. I can invert this. So let's say I painted this and I did it the wrong way. Whoops. So I can press invert, and now that'll flip it. So now it's going to not denoise anything down here, but it will denoise the sky. One thing that you'll notice is I've done a very rough job of masking. So if I click on sub, I can use the left and right square bracket keys to change the size, and then I can just paint where I want it to be subtracted. Just paint where I want it to be subtracted. There's a bit down the bottom here. And then that's going to just do the areas where there's now black left. So I'm going to invert again. And if I'm happy with this, I just press apply mask. If not, remove. So what this is now going to do is I can tell it to go significantly remove noise. And if you look at the sky, there should be no change to the sky at all. It should really just be having an impact down on this section down the bottom. So that masking, I think, is a really, really useful tool. It's something that I think for a lot of night photos where you do want to be a little bit selective and you want to have noise on land but not sky, or vice versa, it is something that is definitely worth looking at, because you might find that that makes all the difference on your photo. So I hope this has been really helpful. Stay tuned to my YouTube channel. I'll be doing more videos in the near future on, all of the various Topaz range, how it works, what it can do, and so on. Thanks for watching.
I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, let me